After decades of hard work, hitting your targets, maxing out your 401ks, getting one more bonus before you call it, you're supposed to reach a point where you are supposedly feel ready to retire, right? But in all that pursuit of more, it's easy to lose sight of what truly holds value. That brings us to what we believe is the most important question that you can ask yourself right now. What if the last 5 years of your career were costing you the best 10 years of your retirement? You see, for too long, the retirement industry has focused on the question, do you have enough money? But the world has changed and the old tools and advice aren't meant for today's challenges. So that's why we believe the real question, the one that really defines a successful life, isn't do you have enough money, but how much quality life will my money buy me? You see, this matters because your two most precious assets are your health and your time. Both of these are non-renewable. If you focus only on the things you can't control, like the stock market or the economy, you could end up living in a perpetual state of anxiety. And that's why in this video, we're going to show you how to shift your focus to the things that you can control. We'll explore the real costs of waiting to retire and then walk through the specific strategies that can make retiring in your 50s or early 60s a reality. Let's get into it. First, let's discuss the true cost of the one more year syndrome. The decision to work one more year, it might feel logical, but it comes with a profound and often hidden cost. Think of your life after 50 not as one long stretch, but as distinct phases, right? The first phase, often from your mid-50s to your late 60s, represents your go-go years. This is your peak phase of health and vitality. This is that time for adventurous travel, physically demanded hobbies, and the type of lifestyle that you would typically see in those brochures that everyone has, right? But keep in mind, this phase is finite. Every year that you continue to work in a high-stress job, you are literally spending those golden years working. You're trading your vitality for a deposit. And unlike money, you can never earn that energy back. That trip you might plan to take at age 68, it might not be the same as the trip that you could take at age 58. At the same time, your most important relationships are moving forward on their own schedule. Grandchildren are making memories, their formative years are fleeting, and aging parents might need you, not just for your financial support, but your time and presence during a window that will eventually close. The regret that we hear most often isn't financial, it's the regret of time. The missed school sports games, the trips not taken with a healthy spouse, the moments that were traded for one more project or just another year's salary. You see, a true retirement plan shouldn't just fund your expenses, it should fund your life and the relationships that give it that meaning. Understanding these non-financial costs is the first step. The next is creating a practical plan that addresses the financial hurdles that keep people working. And if you're wondering if your current situation would allow you to retire earlier than you thought, but you're not fully sure, fill out the questionnaire in the description and we'll send you a video analyzing your specific circumstances and show you how to create a retirement strategy based on your lifestyle in today's world. Like we said, understanding the emotional costs of waiting is the first step, but conviction comes from having a practical plan to overcome the financial fears that keep people working. So let's break down how we address the three biggest barriers with a level of detail that generic advice simply can't provide. So the first barrier would be market volatility. The first and most powerful fear is that fear of the unknown, specifically the fear of a major market crash right after you retire. And this isn't like some sort of irrational fear. It has a name. It's called sequence of returns risk. And this is the risk that market losses in the first few years of retirement, when you're also withdrawing your money, can disproportionately damage your portfolio's ability to last a lifetime. A 10% loss in your portfolio when you're 45, it's a bump in the road, but a 10% loss when you're 60 and drawing income, that can change your entire future of retirement. So this is one of the biggest reasons why people feel like they need to work one more year. They think that having a larger portfolio will protect them, but it doesn't actually eliminate the risk itself. It just means that there's more money exposed to that risk. This fear leads to a perpetual state of anxiety where you're never actually going to feel safe enough to retire, to fully retire. It forces you to trade your best, healthiest years for a false sense of security. So how do you address this concern? You can't control the market, but you can build a plan that is resilient to it. So the solution is to create an income plan that separates your retirement paycheck from daily market swings. You can do that by focusing on what you can control. One effective strategy is to segment your portfolio. First, create an income bucket. allocate 1 to 3 years worth of your essential income needs into stable, conservative investments. This bucket acts as your buffer. Then determine your growth bucket needs. The rest of your portfolio can remain invested for long-term growth. This structure allows your growth assets to ride out any market storms without you being forced to sell at the worst possible time. And then lastly, have an emergency savings bucket. This is going to be a smaller amount of cash that can be accessible immediately for any smaller emergency needs, maybe like an emergency house repair or an unexpected medical bill. So with this methodology, your income is secure, your anxiety is reduced, and your long-term plan remains intact. It's a tangible plan that provides a shield against the things that you can't control. Now, what are the proper amounts to have in each bucket? That's going to depend on a few factors, including your personal income needs, and we'll get into that in a moment, your personal risk tolerance, and your portfolio's risk capacity. Okay, so the second barrier is the widespread misconception that your retirement funds are completely locked up until age 59 and a half. The strategy to overcome this is using specific IRS-approved rules for early penalty-free access. And this knowledge can be the difference between a dream and an actionable plan. So for many people with the majority of their wealth in retirement accounts, understanding these rules is the key that unlocks the ability to retire in their mid-50s. Without it, the conversation simply can't move forward. So how do you access these funds? For a client retiring before age 55, the primary strategy we use is Rule 72. As the IRS website details, this rule allows you to set up a plan of substantially equal periodic payments, or SEP, from your IRA. This isn't a simple withdrawal. It's a formal income stream based on one of 3 complex IRS-approved calculation methods: amortization, annuitization, or life expectancy methods. Now, the rules for a SEP are extremely rigid, so if you deviate from that payment schedule, the IRS can retroactively apply a 10% penalty plus interest to all distributions that you've ever taken. So this is not a do-it-yourself strategy. It requires precise professional guidance to execute correctly and safely. So keep that in mind. The final barrier, it's the fear of running out of money, a fear that's often made worse by outdated advice, like the 4% rule, right? The real problem with stuff like that is that it's not just the rule itself, it's the lack of a personalized benchmark. You can't build a successful plan without first knowing exactly what you need that plan to do. And why is that? Without a personalized number, all financial planning is really just guesswork, right? You can't know if $1.5 million is enough if you don't know what it needs to accomplish. This ambiguity is a primary source of retirement anxiety. Turning that vague fear into a specific solvable math problem is the single most important step toward building confidence. So how do you address this? We solve this by first calculating your portfolio income needs, or your PIN. The formula is kind of simple, but it's powerful. We start with your total desired annual spending in retirement. Now, make sure you include essential expenses like a mortgage, utilities, any other bills, in addition to your discretionary spending like any dinner outings or vacations or any gym memberships and stuff like that. From that, we subtract any predictable income sources like a pension or Social Security, and then the number that's left over, that's your PIN, the number you need to withdraw from your portfolio each year. Once we have that number, everything else falls into place. We can work backward to build a portfolio and a dynamic withdrawal strategy specifically designed to meet that goal. It's a plan built on the reality of your life, not on a generic rule of thumb. So once a year, you should reassess your expenses and see if your PIN changes. And eventually, you'll be able to set up guardrails that will give you a bit more flexibility in your spending based on your growth bucket's portfolio's performance. Now, let's look at how these principles and strategies come together in a real-world scenario to change someone's life, right? Let's meet Bill. So Bill came to us at age 54 with $1.5 million. He was completely burnt out from a high-stress job, but his number one fear was retiring at the start of a major bear market. He was terrified that a downturn, something completely outside of his control, could jeopardize his entire future. That fear of the unknown kept him feeling like he needed to keep working another year just to be safe. Instead of generic advice, we applied a strategic plan to address his specific barriers head on. The first thing we did was we shifted the focus from the stock market to his own life. And again, to do this, we had to calculate his portfolio income needs, or again, his PIN. After mapping out his ideal retirement, we determined that his PIN was $75,000 net per year. So again, that's after taxes. This number became our goal. But based on his PIN in his current portfolio, we saw that he was going to be in what we call the shortfall framework. which meant that his assets without a strategic plan could not support his income needs at his desired retirement age. Now, this actually wasn't bad news. It actually provides the clarity that allowed us to build a custom plan to solve his specific problems. First, to address Bill's fear of a market crash, we built him a market volatility shield, right? We didn't try to predict the market. We made his plan resilient to it. We segmented his portfolio, creating an income bucket with 2 years of his income needs held in stable, conservative investments, which ensured that his retirement paycheck was insulated from daily market swings. It meant that he wouldn't be forced to sell his growth investments during a downturn just to pay his bills. That immediately lowered his anxiety. Next, to create his income, we had to solve that access problem, right? So since Bill was 54, the rule of 55 didn't apply. So we designed a plan for Bill using the IRS Rule 72T to establish that SEP, which again stands for Substantially Equal Periodic Payments. We calculated a precise, sustainable distribution from his IRA that was completely penalty-free. This was the technical key that unlocked his ability to retire now, not in 5 or 6 years. Finally, we had to prove that the plan would last. The income from the SEPP plan created a reliable foundation. We then integrated this with a dynamic withdrawal strategy from his other accounts, all custom built to meet his specific PIN of $75,000. His plan wasn't based on a generic rule. It was a comprehensive plan that was based on a map of his life. And the result? By the end of the process, Bill's focus had shifted. He wasn't fixated on or worried about the daily news on the economy or the stock market, things that he can't control. He was focused on his plan, which he could control. He retired at 55 with a written strategy that gave him a deep sense of security and confidence. He then successfully traded his highest stress years for his highest vitality years in retirement. Bill's story shows that retiring sooner isn't about hope. It's about having a plan. It's about understanding the real opportunity cost in your life. At a certain point, you stop working for your lifestyle and you start working just to see a number on a screen get bigger. Is that worth it? Now that you understand why we have reframed that question of, do you have enough money to retire, to be, what if the last 5 years of your career were costing you the best 10 years of your retirement? We want to help you find that point where that trade-off no longer makes sense for your life. If you see yourself in Bill's story, the first step is to gain clarity. Click on the link in the description and fill out the questionnaire. We'll send you a personalized video analyzing your specific circumstances and show you how to create a retirement strategy that could allow you to stop working without sacrificing financial security. Until next time, take care.